603.
603. Agree to disagree. 903, my friend.
603.
I really need to like put this away from me because this is like a little fidget toy, that little 3D printed thing that I think is pretty loud, and but I just can't help but fidget with it. It's a little
What is that thing?
So it's a bolt and a couple of nuts, right? But the bolt screws can thread either direction, clockwise or counterclockwise. So
604. Do you know where your corgi is?
So if you put the thing in, what's cool about it is it's just such a tight fit, and I lubed it up with a little Teflon, so like gravity just.
What is Teflon?
It's a magical goop invented by, I don't know, DuPont. Really fun to just play with. Thank you, Thomas. The true solution. The one true solution.
Hey, what's
GMT.
up, everybody? Happy
Hello.
birthday, Thomas.
There you go. PTFE. Thanks.
Pulling up your rap stack.
Thanks, Anthony.
Hey, Lance.
Everyone's in here. Sweet. Getting the game back together. It's been around since 1938.
See, when Anthony says he just knew that off the top of the dome, I kind of believe him.
That is true. Yeah, I rearranged my office a few weeks ago. So now you see the other half of the office. It's the same room. Sean is... Well, yeah, you moved out to the living room, right?
I'm in the living room, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you can get Teflon spray at a hardware store. It's called PTFE, and it's really good for lubricating. It's like they call it dry lube. It's really good for lubricating plastic parts because it's not what's the word? It's not like oil based. You know, it's not going to be wet. It's not going to degrade plastic. That's what I actually bought it for, lubing up the rails. Like the metal rails that are inside the 5.5 inch floppy drive.
It's
No, I got it
called-
right. 5.25 inch floppy drive on the IBM. That's what they recommend. So
The YouTube clip for this segment will be ex-physicist explains dry lube to clueless software engineers. Yo, what are you doing? Hey, yeah, you.
Uh-oh. He's under the spotlight.
Looks like he's looking for something that's going to make noise.
How can I screw this up the most efficient way possible?
Yeah, pretty much. But yes, happy birthday, Thomas.
Woo woo, Thomas, birthday boy.
Yeah. And welcome, everybody, to the show. Where's the noise making toys? Exactly. He just had a squeaky toy, and I think Jamie took it away from him, so I'm not sure. Whew.
Yeah, she does.
What did I do this week?
Excuse me.
I made a sailboat journey to the plains and was immediately killed. Immediately. And then I hear Paul and Sensei made another journey on a boat, or a couple of rafts maybe, to the plains. And they also both died.
This is
So that's this week.
I feel like I'm missing some context here.
So we just we started playing a game called Valheim. I don't know. It's like a survival game, but it's kind of like Viking era. So it's survival, right? You have to eat food, you have to mine resources to build stuff. And we were on a sailboat yesterday. We sailed for half an hour, a good half an hour, only to be murdered immediately as soon as we hit landfall.
Is it the like a MMO? Is it
MMO?
you know?
No, it's a small. Actually, it's kind of like Rust. Have you ever seen Rust? But Rust is full of
It's kind of like Go, right?
hateful people. And
Oh, I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah, it was full of
and
like griefers. And, yeah,
and Valheim is limited to 10 players per server. Yeah,
got it. Okay.
like the Go joke.
So the chance of running into people are pretty low.
Well, I mean, whoever I allow onto the server. So.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But what makes up for the lack of toxic people is the game is very toxic itself. So.
That's good. That's more of a us versus the world situation.
Like, I got no warning whatsoever that I was about to be murdered or I shouldn't make land at this new place that we just discovered. And we're carrying like all of our good stuff. Like, oh, we're going to get all these new resources and bring them home and make some cool stuff. And then I got murdered and lost all of my like troll armor and copper pickaxe and all this expensive stuff. So,
I mean, that's how it was back then, man.
Yep. The Oregon Trail, I guess.
Yeah, the way you were describing it. I was like, "Are you playing like Oregon Trail?" I don't remember sailboats in that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about. I should also maybe mention this. But my brother streams video games, and he's starting up a Factorio Friday stream.
And he's got a Discord too.
He does have a Discord, yes. But if anyone is interested in Factorio out there, we're going to be doing a Factorio game tomorrow.
Factorio Fridays.
If you don't know what Factorio is, let me find a link to it because it's awesome.
I actually don't, so.
It's one of the coolest games. There it is. Paul's playing it right now. I'm not surprised. Getting ready.
All right, Factorio.com.
Yeah, it's kind of like programming in a way. Like you have to. Okay, I'll put a link to that in the show notes, even though we're not recording yet, because I need to spread the love for this game, Factorio.
It's been in development for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Checks out. This looks wild.
It's cool. It's fun. Valheim is really fun too. It's a good break from COD.
We haven't even started. We're already way off the rails. I love it.
We're off the rails. Yeah.
I love it.
This is what I've been thinking about all day. Instead of working, I've been thinking about, can I even get my troll armor back? Because we clapped the cheeks of that troll, and I want to get that troll armor back.
I mean, that reminds me of like the first time I played Minecraft and didn't know what was happening. Like Nightfall, the first night. I about pooped myself.
Yeah, Valheim's like that.
Cool.
What is that sound boom? Yeah, well, I mean, So we were rolling up on the land, and it was foggy, so we couldn't see anything. So I pulled the boat up onto the sand, jumped out, turn around, and there's just a little green ghoul with a club.
Little green ghouls.
He one-shot me. Literally one-shot me. So I was like, Sensei, get back in the boat.
Is that one of your hobbies?
Little green ghouls.
Ghouls?
Yeah. Little green goblins got me. I picked up what you were referencing there.
Yeah, thank you.
Little green ghouls, buddy. Milk steak and jelly beans are my favorite foods. All right. We should probably get this shit on the road.
Yeah.
So I can get to some Valheim.
Okay. It's just a means to that end.
Oh, my character is just hanging around in a loincloth right now. I need to get some stuff.
It's hot.
Probably cold.
Oops. Nope. That's the wrong program. Tried to launch Audio Hijack and it launched Autodesk Fusion.
You might need to update Audio Hijack if you're on a recent version of Mac OS, that is.
Seems to be okay.
Last time I opened
Roll
it,
with
it
it.
was like, hey, it
Oh.
will not work with your version of Mac OS. Oh, what's up, Joe Thomas? I wouldn't doubt that you're hanging around in a loincloth. So Joe Thomas, I've known Joe Thomas since we were like little teenagers.
Aw. Cool.
We're from Home Casual. That's right.
What's Casual Fridays? Is that just straight up birthday suit?
I mean, if you're at home,
You're gonna have to do a video call, right?
not if you block your calendar out. I'm busy. Yeah, junior high. Yeah. You about ready, Rockwell?
Yeah.
All right. Push the button.
All right, I'm recording.
Okay, my turn to clap.
You're clapping.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
I think that worked.
Oh, Watson's not in here. Oh, I see what you did. Nice. Rocky. We're gonna have to start that. Is that a thing?
Huh?
Is that a thing? People calling you Rocky?
I used to hate it. Now I just don't care. A very small subset of people in my life call me Rocky. Mostly the people I worked with during my summer web development job during like high school. I don't know why. They just called me Rocky and I just went with it. It's the only like group of people that call me Rocky. On the air, I'm Rock. In ham radio circles, I'm Rock. Because it's easier to spell out phonetically to people over the air, especially foreign speakers.
Sure.
So I just go by Rock in ham radio circles, and that's just kind of stuck. Yeah. Romeo Oscar Charlie Kilo Rock in Connecticut. Connecticut. It's in the United States. No one knows where Connecticut is. It's just
Connecticut.
it's near Boston, right?
Yeah. It's what separates Boston and Connecticut are like a million toll cameras. Not even booths, just cameras. They just mail you the bill.
They're thinking of so I-84 is the highway that runs straight through the middle of Connecticut in Hartford and so on, and they're thinking of adding tolls to that, which would be a bear. They're one highway. But yeah. Anyway, another exciting news.
Unless you drive down with no license plate. Sensei did tell me he had some life advice that I can learn from.
Just yeah.
That must be one of them. Just don't use a license plate and they can't
Just
mail
try
you a
a
bill.
license plate. It's easier to ask ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
Could be.
It doesn't count if your car's up on cinder blocks in your driveway, in your front yard. We got a lot of those around here.
Oh, he's rocking a Tesla. All right, so I'm looking at your show notes here, and you have 1 point. And it just so happens that I've been thinking about something adjacent to your 1 point since this morning.
This is great.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I got nothing else.
Hey, see you, Thomas.
Oh,
Yeah. So we can get into your point, and you might set me off. I have a few more points.
I'm sure it will. Yeah, I could just get into this. This is the thing that I had a conundrum today. Currently in the middle of doing a huge refactor on our Rails application, the backend, which involves a couple of things in order, sort of bringing over all of the old controllers and views and stuff that we used to use, or we still use, I should say, into new UI, right? We're using Tailwind and doing all that stuff on the front end. And so just kind of refreshing the UI. And then refactoring, ripping up the pieces of that are still left that are running on Trailblazer and just using plain old functions everywhere, skinning up all the controllers, skinning up all the models, putting everything in these nice little, just functions, right? And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And for the most part, redoing the views has just been like, okay, I'm just going to copy paste and just like change the CSS classes, and mostly it all just keeps working, right? Because it was fine. In a good day, I get to like rip out a bunch of inputs that we don't use, and then like later I'll just remove them from the database, right? All this leftover form elements that we just thought we were going to use and now are deprecated and doesn't matter, right? It's great. And for the most part, those forms are just plain old static. Here's the edit page, make some edits, click submit, do the validation, right? The plain old, CRUD way of doing things, RESTful web stuff. But there is a little bit of activity for some of the more complex interactions. And I should preface this by saying this is all on the back end of our application. This is all admin facing, not user facing. Only like 3 people in the world will ever see this, right? But I need it to be functional and usable and stable and solid. So
that you're aware of.
Well, God, I hope so. So, in the back end, we have a concept of a group, and the group can have many users, right? Pretty common scenario. And these groups are for permissions purposes. And then each group has permissions. And then, if you use in the group, they have their permissions, typical Unix permission style thing. But of course, we have many thousands of user accounts. And so the many-to-many relationship there is sort of an interesting UI thing to deal with, because like when you're in the group thing, you want to add and remove users from the group, but you don't want it to you need it to be manageable, right? You're not going to browse through a list of 2,000 users. That doesn't make sense. Generally, you're just going to be typing things in. You're going to want to see who's there. You're going to want to add and remove individual people like one at a time, right? So the solution we had before was this jQuery thing. It was called Bootstrap Multi-Select, right? We're using Bootstrap. This is jQuery-based Bootstrap Multi-Select. Okay, yeah, And it worked great when we had a few hundred users, but it's basically unusable. It's actually buggy at this point where it doesn't actually even apply the changes correctly because there's so many people on the list, and you click it and you just sit there and wait while it expands a list and filters, and it's a nightmare. So I didn't want to bring that over. I didn't want to bring jQuery over at all. And I was like, how can I do this interaction in a nice way? It's like the minimal amount of work, right? Again, admin facing, don't really care about the UX, don't really even care about the UI. It just needs to work. And so I went in the chat and I was like, hey, I've got this thing. Well, actually, let me just back up. So my thought process goes, okay, what's the way I would do this the right way? And it would be, write a view component that does the thing, has an API callback for when you do a search, debounces, filters, displays the things, has add or remove logic, updates the DOM, gets it all in sync, handles error conditions, and then, does all that thing client side. And then that involves writing the client side component, writing a bunch of API calls on the server to handle the callbacks and the searching and stuff. Really just one endpoint, but then you got to deal with CRSF tokens and making sure that's working, and right, the list goes on. Didn't really sound like a lot of fun for the amount of work I want to put into this, especially for something that really doesn't matter, it just needs to work. So I don't know if you saw this in the chat. Did you actually see what my solution ended up being?
I did not.
So what's your thought process at this point?
So I mean, it's a low traffic endpoint. You just have to have nice enough UX to make it work. I would try to refactor the multi-select in a way that you wouldn't have to load all the joins in I guess one instance of memory, right? Like batch it up somehow, paginating it somehow. I don't know.
So that's a good thought. I guess it turned out that the number of people wasn't really the problem. It was actually more just the fact that the freaking jQuery thing was so slow, right? Like if you display a couple thousand things on a plain old HTML page, it's fine, It's a couple hundred kilobytes, but it renders just fine, scrolls just fine. So what I ended up doing was I thought about Alpine, I thought about Vue. I was like, it's just too much. So solution. There's a separate page for just adding and removing users. The Rails rendered page is literally just checkboxes. One checkbox for every single user. I actually even use the Rails helper to like generate those checkboxes. It has a thing for that, checkbox collection select or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And then, but it's still difficult to like navigate. Like I want to find a specific user that might be halfway down the list, right? So I added input and just add a little vanilla JS, add a little metadata to the checkboxes using the data attributes. So data, whatever, data call sign equals whatever. And then add an on input event handler to the input. And all it does is add and remove classes from the checkboxes to hide them and show them. So you can do a filter. I can just type in like 3 characters. A person shows up. I check them, and I'm on my way. Didn't have to bring in a framework. Didn't have to even use jQuery. Just vanilla JS APIs. Pretty good. Like they stole all the good ideas from jQuery and just made them part of the standard JavaScript API. Query selector all that stuff. Toggling CSS classes. Accessing the data attributes using the dataset thing, like all this stuff is there. And, I don't care about compatibility. So that's nice, right? In terms of browser compatibility. So it turned out the solution was just render a plain old, Rails view, sprinkle a little bit of JavaScript that does exactly what I want. Is it reactive? No. I have like update hooks called all over the place. I don't care. It's fine. It's like the entire source fits on one screen. Like, who cares, right? It's not going to break, and I can move on with my life.
So I guess presumably the performance issue with the jQuery multi-select was like the number of event listeners and stuff spin up.
Who knows? Yeah,
just like attaches a bunch of baggage to it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I think like that's a perfectly good solve for the issue. Like, if you don't already have some sort of framework to use, why pull one in? And I think like the point that you're making about modern JS, like if you can, know that you're only using Chrome or whatever that has support for the modern tool set, then you can get pretty far relying on your kind of gut instincts for what a good design is. I don't mean like visual design, but component design. I don't how you actually program it up, right? You can get really far, and I quite like that. Like, something that Paul, like, friend of the show Paul Straw is mentioning, like, people will be saying whatever about JavaScript, and Paul's like, I like modern JavaScript. It has basically what I need. I can do what I need to do in most cases, and it may not be the fastest, it may not be whatever, but it's good. Like, I know it works. It's stable. I think like some people would like really like turn their eyes at me if they heard me say this like in public, but like it's stable in a sense.
Okay.
Right.
In
so
what
like
sense?
so I mean in the fact that like if you got a modern browser and it supports the modern tooling, like you can pretty much just do what you need to do. You don't have to go reaching for a ton of different libraries or things like that. Like, you don't have to have a jQuery, you don't have to have a Vue, you don't have to have a React.
Yeah, what was really interesting was what I noticed when I started searching for these components, because my thought was I just could use a drop-in thing here. That'd be really nice if I could just drop in a little self-contained file and just drop it in and do exactly what I want. There were how many jQuery multi-select things there were? Many of them. And guess what? When I searched for that kind of thing, that was all I found was jQuery solutions. Like that style of having a single component that you can just drop in a static web page, people almost don't write that stuff anymore. If they do, it's for something like dropping in a WordPress blog or something where you don't have a lot of customization, right? I could not find a solution that someone had written that out there that didn't, require a huge front-end framework that I didn't want to bring in, I mean, granted, the jQuery ones do rely on jQuery. That's fair, but like that was such a more common way of doing things. You add jQuery and then you just bring in all this other stuff that runs on the jQuery runtime, more or less, right? And that was the model of building stuff back in the day. And that, I don't see that sort of pattern of components really existing anymore.
Yeah, you kind of, most things assume, like you said, you're bought into something larger that's already there. Yeah.
And the tooling too, right? I mean, you have to have be using Webpack or something like that to compile your assets, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah, Webpack, Babel. I mean, there's so many now. Like, there's some really cool ones out there, but yeah. I mean, it seems
and
like
they're way more accessible, and they're easier than ever to set up, I think, especially with some of the new ones coming out. What was that new Webpack replacement one that you were playing around with?
Snowpack.
Snowpack, right? Like tools like that in Brunch even was like pretty nice, even though it kind of fell by the wayside. Like that was going in the right direction. So the tooling is getting better for that stuff, but sometimes you just need to drop a file in an assets folder and go on with your day.
Yeah, so like your solution was the most pragmatic solution that you could kind of arrive at without pulling in whatever tooling or other pieces of framework that you're used to, right? I've been thinking a lot about that today, like just like it's really, really easy to reach for so much complexity. I know that like JavaScript ecosystem gets dragged for that a lot, and I even drag it sometimes for that too. That's like the default, right? Instead of trying to write something, you reach for packages, and you get small packages with like a single function that it's exported. And not that I'm trying to get at that you should write everything from scratch, because that's a waste of time and ultimately money too, for many people. But you almost kind of get pushed into that complexity. And so I was thinking about that this morning because I observed a conversation on Twitter where somebody was basically rage quitting Vue because Vue 3 was different enough from Vue 2 that they felt like they had to sort of relearn it, or that it wasn't approachable. And so they're sort of retweeting. They're retreating away. See, now chat's already bringing up like I thought you're off Twitter, so I don't spend nearly as much time on Twitter as I used to. But I still use it for like new stuff.
If they didn't bring it up, I was going to.
Yeah, get off my back. Just kidding, Lance. So I guess what I was getting at is so I observed this conversation where this person was like, yeah, this is different enough to where it's like not worth my time at this current moment, or in the future, really, is what they were kind of alluding to learn it. And so they're like, I'm going to stick with static HTML as much as I can. I'm going to stick with Alpine.js as much as I can. And that's just what it is. And there was the flood of support, which was nice to see, where people were like, I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to like hop on a call or whatever. But it just came down to it. This person was just not open to that. And I can maybe appreciate where they're coming from. Like if you're just busy and you get something done, that's the last thing you want to do is have to pair a program with somebody else to wrap your head around something new. But I don't know. So I was thinking about that a little bit because I haven't used Vue since Vue 3 came out, but that was really interesting. That was what they were observing was what I was kind of like observing as well when the RFCs were starting to come out with Vue 3, where this looks totally foreign, like a totally new concept that I'm not familiar with, and so I'm going to have to spend some time learning it. Yeah.
Sure. So there's two different things there. There's something is new and I don't have time to learn it, and something is new and it's bad. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever want to learn it. And those two fundamentally different things. And, sure, when you get busy, you feel like, I'm never going to have time to learn this thing. That's not a reason to react negatively to something's different, therefore must be bad, right? It's just like, I haven't had time to write in Vue 3 either. I've been writing stuff in Vue 2 because I have a whole application written in it. And, I have that technical momentum, right? Like there's no way that's ever going to be Vue 3, and I don't have an opportunity to write a new Vue 3 application right now. And I also don't have the time or inclination to learn it because I'm too busy doing other things. Doesn't mean I don't want to learn it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a little cognitive dissonance there. It's just like, I don't have time to learn it right now, therefore It must be bad. It was a good when I had time to learn it before, or when it was applicable, when it first came out or when I first learned it. But and the other thing about this is that the Vue 3 API, the new composition API, which is what we're referring to, it is different. I looked at it briefly. I was pretty confused, but also I saw a huge need for it. Having written a pretty medium-sized, like complex single-page Vue application that has it was when I was writing this logging component, right? So like to keep track of your contacts in the ham radio logger, there's like a core logger UI, and then different sort of modes you can swap in and out depending on how you're operating, and all those things. Like I tried to use mix-ins, and it just became a big spaghetti mess of modules being included everywhere, and I didn't know where anything was being called. I ended up having to namespace all of my methods and functions and properties and everything because like I couldn't figure out where the freaking code lived. And so the composition API would have really saved my bacon in there. Just take a little bit of time to understand it, and I feel like the separation concerns would have been way more maintainable at that point. And so so Vue 3, like the API is different, but it was born out of this need and a weakness in Vue 2, honestly. People using the mix-ins sort of stretching the bounds and pushing it where it wasn't really designed to go.
Yeah, and from what I read, like all the RFCs are talking about the composition API is mainly aimed at library authors or people that are building components that are complex or systems that are complex, and you may not even need to use it because the options API is there. From what I understand, it's a little bit different, but it's still there. So yeah, I think like you're hitting on a couple of things, and actually chat's kind of hitting on a couple of things too, and it just depends on like the context of the context of what you're building, how you're building it, the team that you have, what the client needs. So the other thing I keep seeing popping up on stream, because I still follow a lot of Phoenix people, is like sort of this excitement around live view, and I totally get live view, the excitement around live view, and the excitement around we can retreat back to our server rendered apps. I understand that sort of sentiment, and it's really interesting to see. To be following people from both camps, like JS everything and like no JS, we don't want it kind of stuff. But
so quick sidebar.
Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking about when I was working on this stupid user groups UI thing was, oh my God, I wish I had live view. This would be one live view thing. It would be super fast. It'd be all server rendered. Like this is a very, very simple, perfect use case for live view where I could get that extensibility and not have to worry about doing any client side anything. So like that was one thing I was like, oh man, I wish I could reach for that, but I'm in Rails land, and I know Rails has similar things. Hotwire, yeah, Hotwire.
.gov.
But I wasn't looking to bring that whole thing in, but like
right.
That was a thing that I wish I had. So. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like just seeing the difference on both sides. The fervor, like both sides have fervor, excitement, people that are kind of standing them, and that's fine. I can totally understand it, but yeah, I don't know. I think like the idea that it's all or nothing almost. I think that's kind of what I've been reacting to today. Like. Yeah, as developers, we should strive for simplicity, right? You always want to keep it simple if you can. That's the hard part, keeping solutions simple. But like that doesn't mean that like the stuff that you're using, the tools that you're using, I think like sometimes using the wrong tool for the wrong job, it makes it kind of impossible to keep it simple. And there's that whole argument of the JS ecosystem making it really hard to keep things simple. Like you almost have to have Webpack, you almost have to have Babel or whatever for transpiling. So I was just thinking about that a lot today, like looking at tools like Snowpack to kind of hide a lot of it away, or even like systems like Nuxt or Next where they kind of like extract it away, and you're using Webpack behind the scenes, but you're using like a simplified API that someone's giving you to use.
Well, why is it you think that people get so entrenched in these matters? I mean, yeah, JS frameworks is, probably the latest in a long list of things that nerdy computer people have been, religious about.
Mm-hmm.
Back from the Vim Max days or VI Max days, even the VI versus Vim guys, like, forget about it, right? How much of that sort of what's the word? I don't know, proselytizing? That's not the right word. Like, how much of that comes from, like, the fact that you spent the time to learn it and build something, and if someone doesn't like the way you're doing that, it sort of feels personal because, you voted with your time. You made a choice. You've invested yourself in this framework and possibly released a product, successful or unsuccessful, that uses that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And someone telling you that's wrong, like that that there's something better, that I feel like the first inclination is just to immediately just shut down, brick wall.
Yeah, it's always, I think it's always going to be like that.
Yeah.
It just is. I don't know. People call it tribalism, whatever. People,
It's a good
some
word.
people might say people are like predisposed to it. It's ingrained. I don't know how much I believe that. Maybe like, but yeah, I don't. I was. It's just. I'm just trying to like struggle how to like. I'm struggling trying to like communicate. I feel kind of like somewhere stuck in the middle, I guess, right? So, I appreciate server rendered apps. I like Phoenix. I think Rails is fine too. Either one of the frameworks that you choose, they're going to have issues, right? You're going to have to spend time learning the idiosyncrasies, which means that you're not spending time learning the idiosyncrasies of another, right? So if you're investing into Rails, you're not investing into Phoenix unless you're like working twice, right?
Right, and then you're missing out on all those advances too while you're busy doing the Rails thing.
Yeah. So maybe here's what I'm trying to think about sort of on the fly is like, I'm in TypeScript land right now because my day job, but also I just like it actually. Maybe that sounded like I said dislike. I just like it. So it's really, it's interesting thinking about, okay, so I'm spending my time here and I'm looking at Elixir and there's all these merits. It's a cool language. I enjoy it. Go is also cool. I hear Rust is really cool, but I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm kind of just betting on JS or TypeScript, right? And the reason I find myself in this position is a circumstance because of my job requires it from me. But also B, it doesn't seem like there's a thing that I wouldn't really be able to do. Like maybe it wouldn't be the best implementation or solution, but I could still ship a project, right? I could do a machine learning thing. I could do a real-time communication thing. I could do a embedded device thing. I could do whatever, So I've never like, over the course of the show, I've kind of like been wishy-washy in like, this is why I'm like what I'm picking. And this is why I'm always kind of like looking at the other side. It's like people make fun of me for it, but so like observing that and then thinking about like, okay, can I even pick this set of tools and still try to keep it simple without just inherently embracing the chaos of the churn of the ecosystem or the complexity of even just like the tooling I need to run the stupid thing in the browser.
Mm-hmm. A kind of desert island situation, right?
Yeah,
You got like a terminal and I don't know, DSL internet or something.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. So
dial up.
Yeah. It's interesting because even like if you're thinking about Snowpack, that's incredibly complex what it's doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, and you lose all sight of what's really happening with all that abstraction and complexity that's going on for you. It's not to say that, that's the whole, the march of computers from the beginning. It's always been adding layers of complexity to make things simpler. Abstractions. The whole, your whole PC is built on abstractions. The network is built on abstractions. And then it's just abstractions on abstractions. That's just the way it goes. And as compute power gets more powerful, the layers get deeper because you can process that interoperability even faster, and make it basically so fast that you don't notice. So that's never going to stop, right? So you can't bet against that. But going back to the fundamentals of your individual language framework, whatever it is, and sort of going back to those roots and understanding sort of what's possible, and I think is really I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's knowing that yes, you can add all this complexity on top to make your day-to-day life easier, but knowing that if you had to, you get down to the quote-unquote bare metal, and do what you need to do to get your job done without dependencies. That's a sign of a good, technology to learn, I think.
Is that sort of, I can see that. Is that sort of a lost cause in a sense, like an exercise in
just like mental masturbation?
Right, like how many dependencies can I remove? At the end of the day, like if it works, what does it matter?
Well, sure.
I think
so yeah. You're right. You wouldn't design a real full application that way, but knowing that you can, and knowing that like if you need to, for an individual use case where you don't need the complexity, you can just get the job done with a minimal amount of thing. It's not going to be every case, but you can still do it
it can be done, but it doesn't have to be like the sole pursuit of everything you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It scales, right?
Sure. Yeah. But so this morning, so I basically I hang on Twitter a little bit, and then I've moved a lot of my news consumption to RSS feeds. So I've been reading there, and a lot of the articles I was reading this morning, or the couple of articles I was reading this morning, were talking about like, striving for simplicity. Specifically, I'll put the link in the show notes, but specifically it was an interesting article about TypeScript and types, and how you sort of can use TypeScript's built-in utility types to have sort of self-maintaining types in a sense. So like, say your type, you have, I should probably just pull the article up for the example because it was like a perfect example. Opening reader right now.
I'm trying to figure out why my internet's lagging. You keep breaking up on me, and the chat's saying I'm breaking up here. Everything looks fine from my end.
Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, so anyway, like the example is you have a function, it takes an argument, an object argument, and you can, that you want to apply defaults on top of it. So if someone applies something to the object, then you want to use that. If they don't, then you just use a default. So you might want to type that. So you could use. Watson found the squeaky toy.
Yeah, he did.
No. So you want to type the options argument, but then you also probably want to like what the user's giving you, but then you might want to type the default options argument because it may be a little different. And then you could even add a third type called like partial options, like the things. So you could have like defaults which are required, partials which are not required, and the whole thing makes up like the options. So then you have basically three types. So if you want to add a new like Boolean to it, you have to add it potentially three times. So this is something I started learning about TypeScript more recently. I'm feeling kind of like more strong with the basics, and so now I'm looking into TypeScript has like a myriad of utility types, which are pretty neat. So you can actually, let me get a link to them so if people want to see. There's a really good article here called using. built-in utility types. He's making noise.
I can hear that. Yeah,
All right.
he's got a bone or something. That does come through in the recording, so it's impossible to take out. You got to put him in solitary.
Yeah, I'm back. I confiscated all the noisy stuff in the vicinity. So yeah, TypeScript has a bunch of utility types that you can use, and it feels a lot like metaprogramming in a sense. So instead of relying on concrete like strings and other values, you can use things like pick or partial or exclude, and you can actually just like adjust types that are coming in on the fly based off of the utility types.
So you have a DSL just for building meta types?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound very fun to me. I'm being completely honest.
It can get really wild, but it's still really interesting to me.
I'm trying to think about how I would type something like that with a required and optional arguments in something I know like C#, right? First thing is just like use nulls, right? Null means it's it's optional. It's null. That means you haven't provided it, but that doesn't always work. Obviously, for lots of reasons. Plus, it's just a pretty lazy solution. So, yeah, I'm not sure of the right way to do it. Besides from like, maybe if you accept. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat. Like you can bring in these larger kind of like really specific types, and then using these utilities, you can kind of like whittle them away, so only the pieces that you need when you need them.
Really, if you have an option argument that's complex, what you should do is it should be like a class, right? And when you initialize it, it just has a bunch of defaults, and that way there's no, the optional ones are the ones that are sort of already have defaults, and you've initialized that options thing. So you initialize the options thing, options have defaults, and then you can override them, and then you just pass in the options thing, right? Like,
good grief.
What? That's how is that any more complex than having like pipe operators and doing union types? Like it's arguably more explicit because you know exactly like if you've got a thing that's that complex, why spend all that time? You just have one type. It's the class, and the class has all the right values in it. You don't need to check anything.
Yeah. So like Paul is saying in the chat, like you find some uses of the omit, pick, and like the utility types to be pretty verbose, and they can definitely get pretty wild. So if you actually, a good example of this would be like go looking in the source for Prisma, the Prisma type. So like if you are using Prisma, so it generates an ORM client specifically tailored to your database. Specifically tailored to your data set. And actually Blitz.js uses the pick utility type to whittle it down. So if you're basically making a controller, I guess, like that of this massive like model type, you're only going to need 2 pieces of it, then it creates the new smaller, like more focused type that uses pick, and it pulls the 2 things you need out. And so that way the consumer of that, who's ever like calling that query, can only actually send in those 2 arguments. So it like makes it more approachable on the other side. But you can't really whittle down the base like model type because it all has to be there for various pieces of the ORM to work. So I thought that the pick utility type was like a nice usage of that didn't seem like too wild. But like Paul is saying, I've seen the reverse of it where it gets like really crazy, and then you could make your own too. So I've seen some people make utility types like isTypeOf for sort of type checking a type, conditionally doing things based off of the type of a type in functions and stuff, which is a little meta programming, because then it's like, okay, is this happening? This part's happening in compile, but this part would be stripped out at runtime because all the types for TypeScript are stripped out at runtime. We were just talking about choosing simplicity, right? Or chasing simplicity.
Yeah, this sounds awful to me. I'm just sounds like a lot of wasted mental cycles, but I haven't tried it, so I
could just be explaining it pretty poorly. But yeah, like it even like error messages can be like tough to sort through sometimes. to be honest.
I feel like this is less of a shortcoming of TypeScript and more of just a symptom of, I don't know, the way the applications are built, the complexity. I mean, you were describing this problem in the chat today you're having with some React components, race condition kicking off a warning in the console that like something couldn't update because it was updating something else, right?
Oh, that was Redux. That was Redux. Blame Redux for that.
Sorry, so you broke up on me.
Oh, I said blame Redux for that.
Sure, but like but like when you've got what are they called? Container components or like provider components wrapping other components, like of the way that modern React applications are built. When you run into impenetrable bugs like that you don't know what caused them, you don't know how to fix them, you don't know how to trace them down. There's no stack trace because everything's async. That's a sign to me that like there's so much complexity there that the tools are not really designed with this kind of complexity in mind. And when you're describing all these crazy union types of TypeScript, like that's it's mentally very satisfying to get it right, but like getting to that point and coming back to it later and changing it, I can't imagine that's a good experience.
I can't imagine that it wouldn't be a terrible, or it would be a terrible experience, like because it's supposedly type safe at that point, right? It's supposed
it's
that's
better
one of
than
the selling points, right? Is it supposed
no,
to
I
help
get it.
you?
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I know, but like, at what cost?
At what cost? Yeah, the heat of your CPU.
Well, but I mean, yes, it does solve the issue of, it's not going to break later, right? Like, you change one optional thing and you forget to pass it in somewhere. Like that's impossible to happen now.
Yeah.
But I feel like there could be other solutions to that I don't know enough about it to continue talking about this.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I mean, even while you were talking about that, I was thinking about like as a user of things that are written in TypeScript. So I'm not writing libraries. I'm not writing software to be consumed by other developers to make software. I'm the end of the chain, I guess, in this sense. And I've had sort of minimal exposure to these utility types because I haven't needed them yet. Whereas on the other hand, I've seen, for example, Tanner Lindsay, one of the creator of React Query, he was just tweeting about over the last week how difficult making the change from like being a TypeScript consumer to being a TypeScript producer, like someone that's writing software written in TypeScript for other developers to consume. And apparently that's where the complexity like skyrockets, because then you have to, in many cases, you start needing some of these utility types and some of these more complex features.
Sure,
so
because
I've just been isolated from it so far.
Yeah, luckily. And yeah, I mean, because at that point, the types are part of your API, right? This whole other facet of your API that you need to develop and needs to be versioned and maintained and work and documented, right? Yeah.
Right. So I mean, as we're talking about this, it just makes me think about how would this be? So if you have a reasonably complex application and you're using TypeScript and you end up having to do things like some of these heady concepts like these utility types and things like that, I'm wondering what trade-offs would happen in other languages, like you were saying, C#, JS, even Ruby, Elixir, like just different paradigms, different ways of approaching them. And I guess like what it all comes down to is it's just different. The contexts are all different. Requirements, are like, I guess the specialties of languages are different. So maybe what I'm reacting to is what's that?
You're reacting.
Well, maybe what I'm reacting to is that the just the number of statements of fact of things that aren't fact.
You mean because they're false or because they're opinion?
Both.
Okay. Even Anthony in the chat saying this TypeScript thing comes up a lot in Redwood.
Mhm.
They've been trying to type the framework for close to a year now, and they're still not done.
Yeah.
Sounds like a familiar story.
So maybe I
Yeah.
should adjust what I say is I'm enjoying TypeScript as someone that's writing end applications, not having had to experience writing software for other developers.
Sure. And so do you think when people are spouting their beliefs, is it, and you said they're they're wrong, they're not facts or not truth, but like, is it because are they just spouting hot takes without thinking, or is it just, more like based off of, experience that might not invalidate someone else's experience, or is it like what is it about that like
I
makes you
think
recoil?
like you certainly see hot takes because people are frustrated, e.g. like the Vue 3 conversation I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I
even saw one. I remember back in the day there was a guy trying to learn Elixir, and like he freaked out because he had to hit Control-C twice to exit the interactive terminal. He was like, "What is this? I can't deal with this." Rage quitting on Twitter, same thing.
Yeah. So there's definitely some of that. I think it's all the above, right? Like some people, I mean, I can only talk about TypeScript as deeply as I have experience in it, right? So, yeah, it could be that I can make statements of fact on my Twitter that someone else could easily invalidate because they have more experience or something, So,
Can we start a new social network that's just called Statements of Fact?
yeah, you can't. It has to be peer reviewed by everybody on the network in order for
every
it to
post
be
has to be
persistent.
verified. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think they have
So-
that. I think it's called an encyclopedia.
Ooh. Yeah.
Certainly not Wikipedia.
Use the blockchain.
Oh, we
says
could use
Thomas.
blockchain. We could use blockchain as a system of verification. Brilliant. Except you can't say the blockchain. They just call it blockchain. Like it's like Apple
Omnipresent.
talks about iPhone. Yeah. Don't use the blockchain, just use blockchain.
Yeah.
I have
So,
really funny story about that, but really after show.
After show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think like how I could even today like it was a little bit rambly, but
That's good though. I like our talks.
yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to even wrap it up for the listeners out there, but maybe we don't have to.
Well,
Maybe sometimes you can just think about both sides of it, right? Maybe sometimes there is no real answer. It just depends.
really what it comes down to is your ability to accept a certain level of complexity, understanding that with that complexity comes risk, I accept the complexity of using a Mac, even knowing that like if it broke, I would be without a computer because I have to go to the Apple store and return it. But like the trade-off of having a Mac is worth it for me, right? But if I'm writing a huge application that I know is going to grow and live a long time, be difficult to maintain, the gain associated with using a more complicated framework system of tooling is worth it for the trade-off of like, I know I'm going to have the bandwidth to maintain this thing and keep it up to date versus, hey, I need to get this stupid admin UI done so I can finish the rest of my refactor. I'm going to write 10 lines of JavaScript and move on with my life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I feel like that's a constant struggle. You always feel like you want to reach for the latest and greatest, coolest, hot, new, shiny thing because it has a cool Hello World demo and it fits your use case perfectly. But if that's not really the problem you're trying to solve, if that balloons out of beyond the scope of whatever you're trying to do, then maybe you evaluated that kind of risk complexity incorrectly.
That's life.
Well, that's a whole other podcast.
Well, I mean, so I was also thinking about trying to how do I distinguish like the difference between like a junior dev and an intermediate dev and like a senior dev. and outside of just like technical chops or something like that, right? I think this is one of the things that helps me sort of figure out where someone's at on that spectrum. Like, can someone actually like reason about, is this too complicated and why is it too complicated? Can some is like, are they able to like look at a solution, like there's a problem, they come up with a solution and then put that solution aside and try to find another one if it seems like unreasonable, right? Or even being able to tell if it's unreasonable. I think that's one of the pieces, because now, like, having more experience with more developers, it's like I can sort of gauge when solutions come in, and it was sort of like this was the easiest place to arrive at, I guess. And there might be something that's simpler if there would have been a little bit more time spent on thinking about the problem. So, yeah.
And guess what? Usually the other person looking at that code is you in the future.
Yeah. I find that's something that I end up doing a lot in MR reviews and things, is like, hey, let's leave a note here or a comment here for our future selves. Like, explain why this is happening the way it is. Your point going back to the problem I was solving today with Redux. So basically, to get Redux data into a component, before you had to wrap it in a connect call. So basically, you say these functions come in, this data goes in, wrap it in connect, and it makes it available via props to the child component. So if the child component of that connect component is functional and not class-based, and you try to call a method given to it, it will throw a console warning because maybe it hasn't finished rendering yet, and it's like, hey, you can't change me yet. The parent's not done doing whatever it needs to do to set up. And so that's what was happening, sort of a race condition. So instead of just fixing it, I left a nice little comment with a link to documentation there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I had to write a refactor one of our pages today. Is a big reporting page. It has tons of SQL queries. I needed to write some code that was necessarily messy because it involves doing lots of custom SQLs and aggregate functions. And, in order to optimize this thing, I had to write code that wasn't really readable because it had to be more performant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because just basically, I turned 471 queries into like 10 queries, right? Like something like that, where the initial implementation worked was very naive. And so I wrote this whole, the code is difficult to read. And so I wrote this whole long block of comments at the top. It just starts with like, buckle up, and then walks through every single step on the thing. So that way, when I go back to visit it, I know what the heck I'm doing. Because nice. I'll probably look at it tomorrow and not even know. Got more important things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, just finish it and move on. Leave a note, move on.
And so that's Lance, right? In the chat asking. Yeah, okay, I just wasn't sure. So Lance is bringing up a good point. He says, why don't you just write a doc on the side at that point and maybe reference the document number in the comments? You totally could do that. If we had a system in place for doing that, that was internal, that I had confidence would live on with this code base into the future, that's a very good solution to do this. We're not set up to do that. Inline code is never going to be separated from the documentation that it's right next to it. So that's it's version controlled too then, right? So everything's right there. If we had proper docs, yeah, that would be the right place to do it. But inline comments are good too.
I tend to like inline unless it's like a book.
Yeah, absolutely. If it was something more than if something more complex, even then though, like if you have a good tool for doing inline, like Elixir documentation is first class, citizen of the language, more or less. And the docs generates are really good. So that's a good place to do that for sure. But.
Yeah, like Paul said, in MetaLab, we typically have like a docs folder in the root with markdown files in it. Funny you mention mention the Elixir stuff, like the Elixir code, is because I've seen a fair number of people in Slack, the Elixir Slack, complaining about it. They're like, it makes the code hard to read. There's too many comments. It's like, this is all documentation. Yeah, just different preferences, I guess.
Use a real editor that can, collapse the docs for you.
Ooh. Yeah. I what's funny to me is that the warning I was getting from React actually linked. It had like a shortened Facebook URL, and it linked to a comment in a GitHub issue thread where Dan Abramov, I think it's how you say his last name, explains to everybody how to read a stack trace. Basically, the issue was like people were saying that the error was hard to read, like the message didn't make sense to them, and the stack trace was hard to read. And so his response was, listen, there are limits to what we can actually do with JS in terms of being smart about how we're showing you an error. And then he took a screenshot of the stack trace and then put color blocks around sections. This is React. This is something else. This is your code. Look here for the component that's throwing the error, which I thought was funny. I was like, man, somewhere in React's code base, there's hard-coded Facebook URL to a comment in a GitHub thread.
I remember that was a funny thing when Swift first became open source. It was already in Git, so they just published it to GitHub, I believe. And there was a whole history of the development of Swift, and tons of commits in the history of the Swift language were Stack Overflow links. Referencing issues that people had and so on.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'd like to go back and look at some of that. I don't think I'll ever be writing Swift anytime soon, but it seems interesting. So, I've mentioned that I've been working with some iOS devs that are writing some TypeScript now for extra learning, and the way they talk about Swift makes me want to learn a little bit of it. They really like Swift.
I'm telling you, man, if I had discovered Elixir and if the timing had been different and Swift on the server became a thing faster than Elixir and Phoenix became a thing, I probably would have bought in totally to that, because it is so nice to work with and it's super fast, and the tooling just wasn't there yet. And I don't know if it's even there yet now for real applications, but don't quote me on that. But it is quite nice. Quite nice. But.
Boop, boop, boop. You got 100 things you want to learn? Yep.
Yeah, Lance, I've been watching you in the Discord like jump around. You were doing Python and Docker for a hot minute, and then you're on to Next. Now you're talking about Nuxt.
I like Nuxt. Well, shall we do the wrap up, the housekeeping?
Yeah. Oh, do your shout out for next week.
Oh yeah. Well, next week we have something special planned.
Oh.
And yeah, we're having a book author on the show. We're going to talk about their new book, Grokking Simplicity. Yeah, so next week on the stream, we're going to have Eric Normand with us. And let me pop a link here in the show notes and in the chat. He's written a book called Grokking Simplicity, and it's all about, actually, I should probably just read.
Yeah, it's a good summary.
So let me find it here.
Second sentence.
Grokking Simplicity is a friendly, practical guide that will change the way you approach your software design and development. Really? I ask. It introduces a unique approach to functional programming that explains why certain features of software are prone to complexity and teaches you the functional techniques you can use to simplify these systems so they're easier to test and debug. Now, see, the second part of that got me interested. So, yes, I've already started reading the book, and by next week I'll have finished it, and we'll have a good discussion about this.
I'm going to do my best to get through it so I can be part of this discussion. It looks awesome. It's right down our alley. Right up our alley? Right through our alley.
It's all functions, basically, is what it's getting at.
Yeah, right. I wrote this book. It's one page. It just says it's just functions, Sean.
It's just split them into small functions, mostly pure if you can. It's 2 pages. No, it looks really cool. So, if I'm reading through it, basically it talks about some concepts and then it has some examples and then it asks you some questions and the answers are upside down. So you get to flip your iPad upside down.
Wait,
And
really?
remember, you have to have rotation lock on. Otherwise, your iPad will just flip it right side back up.
That's what it says. That's
no,
great.
that's just something that I learned.
Good.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? That's great. That reminds me of like doing crossword puzzles or jumble in the newspaper, right? You got to flip it upside down for the answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's cool. I'm looking forward to the discussion. So yeah, that's happening next week on the stream.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. But in the meantime,
I guess if you have thoughts on a sort of lack of thoughts, I guess, on TypeScript.
incoherent rambling.
Incoherent rambling. Yeah. Just let us know.
You can let us know on Twitter. Sean will read it, turns out. The show Twitter is DNCcast. Sean is Sean Washbot. And I am Rockwell.
And as always, we're keeping links to everything that we talked about in the show notes. And if you want to see those, if you want to get access to any specific article or talk or tool that we talked about, you should head over to dnc.show and check out the notes.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Excuse me. Now, I know what you're thinking. I like podcasts. I like to consume content on my schedule. Well, guess what? Maybe you don't want to. Maybe you want to live on our schedule for once. See what it's like when the show's live. Anything can happen. We're live on Twitch every week, Thursday nights, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. Come be a part of our schedule for once. Don't live this time-shifted lifestyle.
Our schedule.
It's like it's like SNL, but funnier. Actually funny. No.
And if you don't want to do that,
I take that back. I like SNL. I don't know where that came from.
If you just want to stick to your own schedule, we started a Does Not Compute YouTube channel. So we're going to have the streams up there as well because Twitch gets rid of the VODs after 3 days, I believe, 3 or 5 days or something like that. So we're going to put some clips and some, just the streams up there. So if you're not able to make it to our time zone, like we had some people staying up super late, some people taking off work. That's amazing, but we're starting a YouTube so we can put the content up there and that way you can semi-experience the liveness and you don't have to use up your sick days.
And the last thing we got for you is the Discord. We got an awesome Discord. Boy, I'm really falling flat on this. What about the Discord? We got all kinds of stuff going on over there. Every weekend, it seems that it's lighting up with people working on cool projects, chatting, hanging out, people joining all the time, friends of friends of friends. Come be a friend. Put a link in the show notes to our Discord, DNC Hangout Spot. It's exclusive. It's like Clubhouse, but you actually want to be there. but it's actually moderated.
Yeah. We do have a code of conduct that you have to adhere to.
Yes, Thomas says it's Clubhouse with 0 millionaires. And I add, yet. Maybe like collectively we could be 1 millionaire. Well, like GameStop.
Possible.
When the GameStop goes to the moon.
We do have a finance channel.
I just learned that DigitalOcean, past sponsor of the show, they're IPOing soon. Got to get in on that. To the moon, Sean. Hodl to the moon. Anthony knows what's up.
Yeah, I don't really know what any of that means.
Don't worry about it. You're better off not knowing.
All right. Well, I should get off Twitter and get some sleep. I'm struggling today.
Okay, man. Talk to you later.
See ya.
I'm still hodling. I bought near the top. All right.
Oh, Lance, we
bad
just have
run.
to do an outro for the podcast. Podcast.
What do you mean?
He was saying no after show. Question mark.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
He was asking if we were doing an after show because we just said we'll see you next time.
Oh, yeah, we're doing
The
after show. We
outro.
just had to. Oh, yeah, we just had to record it for the. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're not going anywhere.
That's what I said, Rockwell.
Sorry. All right. I thought you were talking to me. We need like. Oh, that's what I should do. I should 3D print like an on-air sign. That'd be sweet.
I am really struggling today.
Just add a juice.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Jimmy Mooney again? I don't know what's happening. No, it's not.
What does mooning mean?
Going to the moon.
Oh, going up?
Yeah.
What
It's
if
not going.
What if it's like noon and the moon's on the other side? Wouldn't it be going down?
Yeah, it's doing a lot of that too.
What time of the day is it when the stock is? We gotta.
Oh shoot! You're gonna do like some linear regression and the stock goes to the phase of the moon.
It was up 100%.
Yeah, but it went back down like another 50% today. So, you know, it's all bad. It's all bad. Well, no, that's not how percentages work. If it goes up 100% and then down 50%, you broke even.
Oh, I should mention about the book too. They're gonna give us discount codes.
Oh, sweet.
For people. So yeah, I'm following up with them on that.
Okay, question. So the book on the Manning Publications thing, it says estimated 550 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like actual? Like, am I going to have time to read any of this by next week? Because I really want to. I just didn't know it was coming up this quickly.
Yeah, Thomas, let me check out and see if I can get a discount code for you. You're saying 500 pages? Yeah, it's a lot of pages.
Okay. That's it. Okay. I'll just do my best.
I would
Paul-
say what I would say is like read the introduction and then look through maybe some of the solutions. So basically it's like the introduction and then it kind of goes into problem solution mode. So it's not like you would have to read it
Got it.
cover to cover. It's not all conceptual. It's like here are the main bits, like the main core ideas, and here's how you can apply these ideas to other pieces.
I feel like I've gotten better at skimming. Get the audiobook. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Maybe I'll record Maybe I'll record the audiobook. We'll do it live on the stream. The 8-hour stream. Okay, that's fine. That's good to know. Yeah, Paul.
Bugs.
I'm pretty sure it was Buckminster Fuller was talking about how like the concept of up and down is actually the concept of in and out. Because we think up and down is relative to gravity, right? But gravity is, goes in towards the center of Earth and out towards the, away from the center. So, yeah, up and down is really it's really like a middle out. Well, you're not going to read the code. Can you imagine an audiobook of reading like def function name, open parentheses, argument name, close parentheses, colon, new line, tab?
Isn't it how people, it's like screen readers and stuff work? Like if you're blind and you're writing code?
An audiobook that was where you read code. Oh boy.
On tap market.
What are your thoughts on this book? You're just getting fish breath on my mic. Oh no, we lost Sean. I have to entertain you. I don't know any jokes. Missed you.
That's Lightstream for you. That is Lightstream for you. All right, I'm quitting Twitter now. Here we go. It's quit. It's
Did
closed.
we shame you enough?
No, I just got sick of literally someone made a picture of the old Figma icon and the new Figma icon, and it was like 10% larger. It's like, all right, closing it for the day. Hey, where's Watson? There you go, bud. There you go.
I'll Venmo you $10 if you take a squeaky toy and just put it in your mouth and just start chomping on it.
I will not. That one has been in the dog park, so there's probably fecal matter on it.
Sounds like a you problem.
Sounds like a Watson doesn't care problem.
Oh my God, doc icons. In college, I found a I used the Apple Mail app when I got my Mac, and I found a Photoshop template of the mail icon. It looks like a big stamp with kind of like it's sort of translucent.
Oh, candy bar.
Yeah, a candy bar style.
I had candy bar.
Stamp. Candy bar is an app, not just a style. And so what I did was this is cool, icon sets. Is this a Panic thing? Yeah, it is. I can tell just by the icon. How bad is that? Or, how good is it that their icon design is so recognizable? I'm like, that's a Panic app. And I made my own Apple Mail icon that had our Yukon, Husky sports, team logo on it. And then I did the copy paste thing, which still blows my mind. One of those weird Mac OS copy paste drag and drop paradigms that still exists and probably won't exist in Mac OS for very much longer. Can you see this nonsense?
Oh, my feeds? I can just export a thing, right? I don't have a ton, but
so if you right click on how do you do this? If you right click on an app and do show info, any app, right click, get info, and then at the very top left of your get info screen, there's the app icon. And if you click it, you'll notice you get a shiny blue outline. And that means that icon thing has focus. And so if you have an icon in your clipboard, you can just literally paste it over the application icon. I think you can also drag and drop stuff into it. I don't know if it has to be an ICNS file or if it can be a ping or an ICO or something, but that was how I customized my app icons, by literally pasting it into the get info window. Why is that a thing? I don't know. I wonder if I can find this. All right, hot takes on the when did this come out? This came out this morning. 14 to 16 MacBook Pros, mini LED, blah blah blah. All right, then just a nonsensical mock-up. Fine, whatever. Ming Chi Kuo, blah blah blah. HDMI, the HDMI and SD card reader. There's a lot of smoke around that. I'm pretty sure. What's this guy? The Bloomberg guy was reporting that too. Classic MagSafe charging. Mark Gurman's their guy, corroborated. Yeah, so they talked about this on APP a couple weeks ago, and tend to agree with them that like it seems too good to be true. Like this is like the fanboy list of like if I could I could create a MacBook right now, what would it have on it? SD card, HDMI, MagSafe, better mini LED screen. Like that's a good question, Paul. I don't know, and I'd be really interested to see if that actually does it. But it seems like as if it's like Mac fan fiction, right? How could this possibly be true? But are people just saying what they want us to hear? Are these fake leaks by Apple to try to suss out who's leaking internal supply chain stuff within the company? I don't know. I don't know what to believe. All right, I'll take one for the team, Paul. I'll mess up. I've got this app, LG 360 Cam Viewer. I'm not using that right now. I think if you just hit backspace, I think it restores to the original. Let me find a ping here. Copy, paste. Yep, sure did work. All right, so now if I go into show package contents, this is riveting, I'm sure. Contents, resources. So the app icon is still there, the original ICNS that came with it. And there's info plist. Let me look at that. What are you doing over there, Sean?
Just yawning and staring. I got so tired for some reason.
Oh, it doesn't look like it modifies the info plist because it still just says CF bundle icon, app icon. There's no path in there. I think it's an OS thing. It might be like a metadata level. And also, I think if you just click on... Yeah, so, Paul, if you do change the icon, the way to revert it is you just click on the icon again, just hit backspace, and it actually deletes your custom icon. So it is a reversible operation. You can also drag in the proxy icon. But yeah, one of those weird macOS things that you just have to learn by word of mouth because it's completely undiscoverable. You use Jira, right, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
You ever try the Jira native app?
Yes.
Thoughts?
Bad.
It's garbage, right? Why did they try to?
Good.
Why did they? It looks to me like they tried to implement it in Combine or whatever the.
Yeah. Doesn't it start with an M? I don't know.
It looks like a cross-platform, like native Mac thing, but like it doesn't have any of the features, and also the design is worse. And so it's like, why didn't they just wrap up an Electron app? That's all I wanted. Like, it's what everyone else does.
Yeah, it's not great.
I don't need a native experience for dragging cards around. Really, I don't. There's no benefit there. And then it does this weird integration with Safari where like it just kept forcefully opening the app whenever I went to the website. So like I would go to the Jira like project page or whatever, and then just the app would just randomly launch for no reason. It'd go to that page without me doing anything. That was frustrating.
So I started using an app to make macros for working with Jira to make it faster for me.
Oh, this
Keysmith.
Keysmith. Is it part of Setapp?
Yes.
Is, yeah.
I also used it to actually. Have I used that? No, I haven't. I also use Keysmith to connect my Bose headphones because I have to like. It's weird. I have to like click through a very specific menu to get it to work every time, and so I just have a macro that just does that for me. But yeah, so for example, with Jira, if I'm adding a bunch, what I'll have it do is I'll have it like click on create. I'll have it like add the feature name, like the stuff that I have to do every time anyway, and then I'll just type in a title and hit enter, and so it just automates a bunch of clicking for me. I could figure out how to do the spreadsheet import mode, but I'm not really motivated to do that. I'll let my producer do that if she feels like it.
Wait, so Paul, I'm intrigued by this. You're the only person who's, I won't say anti-MagSafe, but you're the only person I've heard who doesn't want MagSafe. And I will say from my experience, HDMI is super useful to me about twice a year when I travel, or when I did travel, where I would want to, like I bring party games, like bring Jackbox Party Pack, and I'd want to hook it up to the TV wherever we're staying, like a hotel or wherever, and play party games with people. That's where I use it once a year. And yeah, I have the stupid USB-C dongle. That's fine. But yeah, it's nice to just throw an HDMI cable and just have that be solid and working. USB-C, to me, it's just offensive to have a hole in the side of your computer that can do what, like 40 gigabits per second, right? Whatever the max data rate is for USB-C at this point, and then you're plugging it in for 0 bits per second for a DC power signal. I think a lot of people who work in real offices and stuff who need to hook up to projectors and stuff really miss the HDMI. Constantly plug in and
Yeah, but you're not.
But you're not what? Using the bandwidth? Well, yeah. So so the multi, yeah. If you're talking about docks and stuff, yeah, I guess I get what you're saying. But like, yeah, having for the docking station thing, yes, USB-C makes a lot of sense for that, for sure. Yeah.
It's magical. Yeah, it is.
I mean, I have the. I used to use the Thunderbolt 2 display, which had it has a stupid pigtail that has MagSafe 1, and then I have a MagSafe 1 to 2 adapter permanently attached to it, and then it has a media DisplayPort adapter for the for the screen and the USB and Ethernet and stuff, which is a terrible connector and always wiggles out, never fit right, but that is kind of annoying. It's definitely nice to have the option to do power over USB-C, but I feel like just for straight up, if you just need power delivery, I do miss MagSafe. It has saved my ass many times in the past. So.
Next is very dependent. I wouldn't say it's dependent. I'm running Next on Heroku right now.
Yeah, no, that's not. No. There's no. I think it might be a misunderstanding. There's like no. You can deploy Next to anything. You can do it on Heroku. You can do it yourself. You can. You don't have to use Vercel by any stretch. Lots of solutions for that. You can even do it on. Aren't they starting to do it on Netlify now? You can You can do SSR stuff, like it's in beta or something.
With Netlify, they're doing like a partnership with Next, so you can run Next on Netlify.
Wait, what's ISR, Anthony? Paul, you know what we need to bring back? We need to bring back the Xbox 360 cables where they have like USB and then there's like the breakaway 3 inches away. Incremental static regeneration. I don't know what this is. Regeneration of static pages during runtime. Oh, okay. That makes sense. So it's caching, kind of. Caching to disk.
This is a much fancier term, Rockwell.
During the fallback stage, we can present shareholders. Why do you get shareholders? Placeholders a skeleton page. Skeleton pages are a common pattern. Once data is resolved, the final page is cached. Okay, there's the word. The consequent visitor will receive the cached version immediately. I see. Okay, so it doesn't. Okay, so this is actually cool because, like Sean, we used to talk about like DK, right? They have thousands of products. You don't want to statically generate that every time you redeploy the site. But with this, it sounds like the first time someone visits, first time someone visits the page, generates it, then the caching happens. So it's sort of like on demand.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because that makes a whole suite of applications that weren't possible before possible because you get the performance and the scalability improvements there. That is cool.
It's interesting for thinking about like price changing too. Like sales ending and prices going back to normal. Then whenever it's requested next, the person would get the updated information. You wouldn't have to generate 50,000 pages.
I'll be right back.
Tons of people do that. Practical. AWS, for example. I feel like I'm just sinking lower into this chair. Don't do that. You guys hear Watson going to town on this bone?
Okay, Paul. There it is.
Wow.
The beast with a USB plug on it. So I can't take credit for this. My friend made it. There's the splice. It's just a heat shrunk thing. And he's like, I have no use for this. You can have it. God, this thing was so chunky. I kind of like it now, though. Yeah, that's what is that, Xbox One controller? That's where it's at.
Well, USB-C.
Yeah, that is nice. I do love that design. Female USB for loading XBMC. I'm confused.
Yeah, that's the Pro one, Thomas.
Wow, I wonder if this still works.
Want some Warzone games with this controller here.
I should play Rocket League with this just because. Oh no, there's no shoulder buttons.
This one has, if you can see the back, it has paddles on the back side of it. So you have like 4 more buttons.
Are those in parallel with the... Like the same mapping as the other buttons on the top, or
They can be whatever you want.
is that the Pro one?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I wish that Sony would make a official Pro PlayStation controller. I would buy the crap out of that.
Get a Scuff controller.
Is that a thing? Is that like a third-party thing?
Scuff are like the top of the they're like the best. Scuff.
Like I really want I want it to be first party, but if it's good, I guess. This controller does not feel as bad as I remember. I really want to see if I can play Rocket League on it now.
So with stuff like Vercel, do you host your API backend elsewhere? Yes.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Scuff Gaming. Are these like metal? I want it to be like metal, like magnesium. Like I want it to be like feel cold and heavy in my hand. I want to like be able to beat someone up with it.
Azure's entered the chat. Thomas sets up a booth.
The Xbox Mech Assault exploit. Mech Assault was great. This is amazing, Paul. This was the day. These were the days. Those were the days. Those paddle controls are wild. I could see that being super useful for Rocket League because they really don't have enough fingers, buttons for like doing air rolls and.
They're super, like for Warzone. I have one is for jumping, one's for sliding, one's for plating, and one's for the other one's for holding breath with a sniper.
That's a good one, yeah.
Thomas, did you get up on a table and throw cards into the crowd and start a Azure frenzy?
What was that connector? It was like this weird circular custom thing.
Practical Call of Duty has aim assist kind of. So if you're like moving right to left and there's a person in front of you, it slows the cursor down when you get over the person. So it's like kind of like a snap almost. The benefit of that is that you can win actually more up close fights because you can, if you have the stick set to dynamic, you can like flip in circles if you need to, whereas someone with a mouse has to be like move their whole arm.
Oh, you can get concave. This is wild.
Are you looking at Scuff stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Customize my
like,
controller now.
They're like one of the best out there.
CS 1.6. That's my jam.
Oh, really? Jeez. Just where to use a controller. Yeah. I didn't know Fortnite had aim assist on the controllers as well, but that would make sense.
I mean, people play it on a freaking tablet. Like, I mean, I imagine that's why they never made Destiny like cross-play. Or any FPS, really. Are there any FPSs besides like Fortnite that are
Call of
cross-platform?
Duty is.
It is?
Yeah.
So you'll be paired against people playing keyboard and mouse?
Yeah, I mean, I play keyboard and mouse now, but you can
like,
get paired with people on Xbox, and yeah, exactly.
And you wreck them, right?
Not necessarily. There are people that are really good out there with controllers. I think like you could have mediocre aim and better game sense, and you'll probably win more fights than someone with super good aim and no game sense.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, the aim assist thing is. You'd always be like thinking about it in the back of your mind, like, did that help them, win or something?
You can sometimes you can tell a lot by kill cams. Actually, you can
yeah.
can kind of see when it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it harder to move away. And what I do is I turn the sensitivity down when I'm aiming. So as long as I'm like closest to them when I ADS, then it's gonna hit. And then people are like cheater, like calling you hacker and all this stuff.
Wait, so they make a PlayStation controller that's like shaped like an Xbox controller. It's got a weird shape to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this is like.
I basically
right.
only play the Battle Royales, Lance.
This is like the price point I was expecting to. Like,
Yeah,
you're gonna hold one controller for.
they're premium.
Yeah.
But they're super nice. Like, even this Xbox one, it's like there's a lot of stuff you can do to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sticks come off, so you can replace it. It's just magnetic, so you can just pull it off.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
And then there's a you can spin this, and it changes the sensitivity of the actual joint there, so you can make it easier or harder to push around.
That's cool.
You can change how deep the triggers go, too. How far back you can pull them and stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then there's different. So like this one is like a third higher than the other ones, so you can get like finer grained aim. I don't know, there's just a bunch of different pieces to it.
Thank you for following Byte Baron. Says all the bots in the chat.
All the bots. Yeah.
All the bots.
I play keyboard mouse again, but yeah, I enjoy playing with controller more because I feel a bit more relaxed, but I like winning more than feeling relaxed. So
it's definitely a different feel.
Yeah, I'm going back into like a Valorant phase though. Not Valorant, sorry, Valheim though.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun game.
A lot of Viking themed things going on right now. Just watching Jess play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and seems to be Vikings are in this year. You're on 144.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hit that?
Yeah.
Sweet.
He's right.
That's what they said about 60, though.
No, he's right. I can tell immediately. It's not fun to play on 60.
That's wild, man. That's wild.
It feels, I don't know, it just feels different.
Like you're seeing the Matrix?
It feels like it makes your reaction time slower, because I guess it kind of does, right? But it just feels slow. Yeah, it feels like you're groggy in a sense.
There's like a curve, right? There's an increasing frame rate. There's x-axis is time. On the y-axis, you've got frame rates increasing, and then you have decreasing my visual acuity as I age. Acuity. And at some point they're going to intersect, and then I'm going to miss out on all these awesome games because I can't tell, because my eyes are garbage. Sometimes I feel like I'm already past that point, if I'm being honest. I should find a game to get into that's not Rocket League again.
You could play Valheim with us. If you want to go to the plains and get my body.
I don't want to get sweaty playing a game. Like Rocket League is my
Yeah, play Valheim with us. Sure.
Somewhat chill.
We'll send you to the forest to find the core wood. And you've not played Factorio at all, right?
I have not.
Dude, Valheim is chill. You can just put some music on, and just do some errands, and then
Until you just randomly die, though? Like, that doesn't sound appealing.
well, we were going to unexplored places, and then Factorio, put your thinking cap on, and you can be a part of the hour-long argument of where the main bus is going to go. Everyone has their chance to give a presentation.
Now, like, I've always been a SimCity buff, right?
Yeah,
Is
you'd love Factorio.
Hmm.
SimCity with guns. So the premise is you crash landed on a planet and you have to like make enough infrastructure for you to be able to get off of the planet. So make like a nuclear rocket and get off.
Mhm.
So you start by like getting coal and wood, and then you make a furnace, and then you can like get ore, turn it into metal, and you just kind of progress through. And then, yeah, Thomas, that'd be cool to play Valheim. And then the more pollution, like the more technology you get, the more pollution you put out, and so there's aliens on the planet that don't like the pollution, and they try to come kill you. So you have to
screw
defend
them,
yourself.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you got to power all your stuff, right? So you actually have to like build steam engines, which you shovel coal into them, so they spew out smoke, and the bugs come and attack your power supply. It's fun. Yeah, I'll probably hop on Valheim for a little bit after the stream as well.
Yeah, Paul, you said you were playing during the... Oh, how's your game going? Oh, he's asking about Booster. Gotcha. Man, all this peer pressure. Dare taught me to, like, not give in to peer pressure, guys.
Dude, I think you would like Factorio a lot.
Okay. So long as it doesn't cut into my WandaVision time. Friday nights are WandaVision nights.
What is that, like half an hour?
It's like, yeah, it is. It's like 40 minutes. Although, literally, it's 8 minutes of credits.
So if, I mean, that you take that 40 minutes away from Factorio, and we could have made some real bad engineering calls, Rockwell. So that's on you. The main bus is going the wrong direction for the map. So, okay, I'll explain the main bus really quick. So you start mining, like you build a miner, and there's like a pile of coal. So you take the miner and it pulls coal out and it gives you a lump of coal. You got to get that coal to your power infrastructure, and you do that with a conveyor belt. And so the whole thing is managing. It's like I just got green circuits onto it. The whole thing is managing. Actually, the systems book that you all have been reading might help with this. So the whole thing is managing, like, okay, coal's over here, iron's over here, copper's over here, wood's over here. This side is my circuit side, this side's my power side, this side is my whatever. You have to build your conveyor belts to get the materials to each place that it needs, because you feed the belts into the building and the output comes out the other side. So then you start with like 2 lanes and it comes out like 6. So you start with like copper, coal, iron, and then suddenly you have like copper, coal, iron, chips, God, what else, Paul? All these different things. Like anything you can manufacture goes onto a belt. So the main belt basically is like it's you have to design it in a way that you can actually like get to the resources, and then you actually can build the buildings off of it without everything just becoming a jumbled mess. It's literally like dozens of things. So you have like this massive like highway of conveyor belts going.
Mm-hmm. I'm picturing, yeah.
Oh, let me find a... It becomes an infrastructure nightmare if you don't do it right.
Yeah, peer pressure. It's just your turn. I don't even care about the quality of WandaVision. I'm just so starved for any Marvel content, like any new MCU stuff. Like just put it in my veins. I don't care. I will watch it at this point. Okay, so you got a bus, different colors.
Here's another one. Where'd it go? Oh my god.
I think they're doing a great job with the show. I honestly like don't know really where it's going. I don't know how many episodes the season's supposed to be. But I feel like they're starting to wrap it up. But I'm enjoying it. It's a really interesting concept that 9 episodes. So what's tomorrow? Or what's tonight? 8? Number 8, I think. Yeah, because we're almost up to modern times and the on the sitcom scale. The sitcom timeline. So I saw a really good fan theory on the subreddit that last episode they said that the show like went off the air. They couldn't receive the over the air signals anymore, and someone's theory was that was around the time that TV shows over the air transmissions switched from analog to digital. So if they're not set up to receive digital shows, they're not gonna pick it up anymore. I thought that was a great theory. It's not a lapdog. I think you're confused. Yeah, the aspect ratio transition. Yeah. There's so many details in that show that are allusions to things or like teasers for things that are going to happen later or like who's going to show up. There's lots of little hints peppered in like the background of every scene. It's so dense and you would never pick up on it unless you go read the boards afterwards because there's a lot. There's a lot. Half the stuff I don't even know what they're talking about, to be honest.
I'll have to give you the server IP address, Thomas.
It was Agatha. I should shut my mouth. Wow, it's 11 o'clock here. What do you say, Sean?
Yeah.
See,
We can
Thomas.
all go to our virtual.
We can all take our virtual pets out.
Yeah,
Our real
go to our
pets.
virtual ends of the world.
I still have my virtual virtual pet here somewhere. Little Tamagotchi thing. Yeah, we're all leaving, but we're all just gonna end up back on the Discord. Not going anywhere.
Can you really real cat snoring somewhere? That's Watson. He snores like a human.
There's like Bucky was here, and now there's like just one tiny cat fur hair in my eye. This is my life.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, have a good night, everybody. See you in Valheim. Watch out for the little green ghouls.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Have a good night. Bye.